If you want to support Bobby Nash and Bold Venture Press, feel free to check out the links in the description. For more news and updates on the Zorro podcast, the cast of Zorro, also check out the description for links to my Zorro Discord server, Zorro's Lair. Hello everyone! Welcome back to the cast of Zorro. My name is Jack Clock, this is Evan Ramirez, and a new guest. Would you care to introduce yourself, Mr. Nash?
Hi, yes, I'm Bobby Nash. I'm a writer and a longtime Zorro fan. I'm super excited to be here.
Nice. We have a few interview questions that we'd like to give to you. The first one is a classic one we like to give to a lot of the podcast guests. What is your favorite Zorro?
Ooh, that's a good one. You know, I gotta say, I love the first Antonio Banderas movie. Mm-hmm. That one hit the year I graduated from high school, and that was when I was really getting into going to the movies and enjoying the theater experience, you know, on my own or with friends as opposed to a family outing or something. And so. Yeah. And my parents weren't big theater people, so we didn't go to the theater very often. So, by the time I was in high school and on, I was on my own, getting out on my own doing things. So Zorro came out that particular Zorro movie came out at just the right time, and I just love the adventure of it. It's so well done. But I also
it is really well.
Yeah, but I grew up watching some of the other iterations of Zorro, and I've read some Zorro books and comics over the years as well. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm a massive sucker for the books and comics as well, so I'm glad that you've read up on those too. All right, so you're a writer. Would you like to describe your most recent Zorro work, because it's a really good read. I absolutely loved reading it.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I've only done one. The one only have one published so far. I did a story. I did a story for Zorro's Exploits. Which Bold Venture Press put out. I'm sure you guys have talked about that on here before because you're in there as well.
We had a few of those.
But so it was great. It was one of those things that in talking with Audrey, I had done some other work for the publisher, and in talking with Audrey, I mentioned my love of Zorro, and she goes, "Oh, that's cool," and a year or so passed. And she goes, and then she says, "Hey, we're doing an anthology, or you want to pitch something?" And it was really that simple how it happened. But it's really cool. I do media tie-in stuff from time to time, so it is always fun to play with characters, other pre-existing characters. But when it's one you grew up enjoying, that there's an extra little bit of fun to it, because it's almost like that this is a dream job kind of thing.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
And,
but speaking of
I was gonna say, and Zorro definitely fit the bill for that for me. It's definitely one of those characters that I loved, so writing him was a ton of fun.
I actually had sorry, I didn't hear it, but outside of the Zorro anthology, like the anthology that you posted, what else have you worked on besides Zorro?
In terms of tie-in characters, I've done the Lone Ranger. I have a Lone Ranger story coming out in November. I've done
nice.
I've done the Green Hornet.
Really?
Yes. I've written the Green Hornet twice, and I have another one that I'm writing later this year to come out next year. And I've done Kolchak the Night Stalker a couple of times. I've written some of the old pulp characters like the Avenger and the Spider, characters like that. So
yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so a lot of fun. Also, I wrote the Green Hood, which was also a character. It was an old pulp character created by Johnson McCauley, who created Zorro.
Oh, really?
So, yes. I actually didn't know about that one. I know about the Spider and a few of the other ones. I didn't know about the Green Hood.
The Green Ghost. The Green Ghost. He wears
Green Ghost.
Green Ghost. Yeah, he wears he's a former police officer in New York City who was framed for a crime he didn't commit and kicked off the force. And And so to clear his name and to take down the bad people who framed him and other criminals, he adopts this green ghost persona, which is the ghost part. I don't really. It's not like he has superpowers or anything, but he wears like a purple suit with a green hood, almost like an executioner style hood, and goes through New York stopping crime. So I got to so he was fun as well. I mean, imagine it was like a 30s Zorro almost. Very similar type of character.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to like the Shadow too, without the supernatural aspect.
Yeah, or Batman, or there's a lot of those similar tropes in those type of stories.
Yeah. I was gonna ask though. So you have written for multiple characters, but other than Zorro, which character would you want to write for next?
Oh, that's always a toughie. I think I want to do Star Trek at least once.
Oh, Star Trek! My mom's gonna love to hear that. She's a huge Trekkie.
I mean, I'd like to do it for real. I've written a couple of screenplays that some of the fan film guys have filmed, which was fun. But that's more of a play. We're playing and having a good time. But I would love to do Star Trek for real. There's a lot. I mean, I'm a big, Fantastic Four fan, or G.I. Joe, or any of those type of things. So we're always looking at different companies that have different licenses and seeing what's out there. I think writing the $6 Million Man would be fun. That kind of stuff. The stuff you grew up watching. Wouldn't it be cool to write those at least one time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, so but no, Star Trek would probably top the list. Maybe Buck Rogers too. I like Buck Rogers, so.
Yeah, Buck Rogers is good. Yeah.
I got close. Close once. I got close.
Oh, you did?
we were talking, and then all the problems with there was never a deal or anything, but we were talking, and they said, "Well, are you interested?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then all the legal issues cropped up, and that discussion kind of went away. But it was like I was so close. I could smell it. It was close enough.
Sorry. Stay on. I want to stay on the Star Trek thing. If you were gonna write a Star Trek story, where would you have it set? Like which generation? Would you have it set with Captain Kirk, or would you have it set with in the next generation, or would you just do something original, something different? That's why I'm actually interested to hear.
Well, all of the fan films I written were written in the original series timeline. They were all other crews except one. I did work on one that was actually people redoing Kirk, Spock, McCoy, etc. So that was really cool to write Kirk dialogue. So I think that would be. I would love, as much as I love the original series, I would love to write something set during the movie era.
Oh,
because
like the original movie,
right?
Because
that doesn't. Yeah, there's not a lot of stuff written in that era, and if you look at the movies are all, they're so different. They're like there's an emergency we've got to fix. It's not. So the movies are very different from the series where they live on the Enterprise. The movies, they go home at night and then they fly up, they get on the Enterprise, fly off, solve a problem, go back to Earth. And I like the idea of seeing them doing the exploration and just that in that movie era. I think would be very cool. And there are some books that have done it, but I think that would be fun.
Yeah, because I'm more familiar with the Star Trek movies and Next Generation, or sort of where I mainly became it's sort of a casual fan. I love the Star Trek movies. I love Wrath of Khan. I like In Search for Spock. I like those two. Those two are my favorite. But
I had no idea that you liked Star Trek. You should.
Okay. Like I said, casual. I've only seen the I've seen the movies.
He knows like how you got me into Transformers.
He knows who Captain Kirk is.
Yeah. I know who Picard is. I know who Spock. I've watched like a few snippets of Next Generation. Loved it. I do love Picard. I haven't really watched a lot of the original show, but I mainly watched the original movie.
My favorite.
Most of what
my favorite Star Trek is Deep Space Nine. From start to finish, if you look at like the whole series overall, Deep Space Nine is just better from start to finish There's the other ones are great too, but there's just something about Deep Space Nine that I just absolutely love.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. Is that which one is that? One's from the 90s. That's the one from the 90s.
That's
right?
the one It started while Next Generation was on.
Okay.
It's a space station
I think my mom told me it was like a competitor show or something.
It was more like
a
companion show. Yeah, it was on 2 years.
Okay.
Like the first 2 years of it were TNG's last 2 years, and then when DS9 started their third season, Voyager started their first season. So there was but Deep Space Nine is more the grown-up side of Star Trek, and I don't mean that in a negative, but TNG and Voyager were very simple. We go to a planet. There's a problem. We solve it. We fly off. We go. Deep Space Nine deals with the Federation at war, which we had never seen before. We'd always heard about it because they're always talking about the aftermath of some war that they fought, but we never saw them fight a war. Deep Space Nine, out of its 7 years, 4 of it we're at war with a more powerful empire that's trying to take over, the galaxy.
That's actually really interesting. I haven't seen it at all. I've only heard some things about it. The only thing I knew about it was that it came out the same time as Next Generation.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I knew about it too, and the more mature tone.
It's a little darker in places than the others, and the first 2 seasons do take it like TNG. The first 2 seasons it takes a little while to get there. But with season 3 it really picks up. But with season 4, it kicks into high gear because Worf comes over, and Worf joins the show, and then the war really kicks up, and we go to war with the Klingons, we go to war with the Dominion, we go to war with the Romulans. It's like a big but unlike TNG and Voyager, it's not just one and done episode. Well, there are some in there that are like that, but it's one big long story, and I just love it. It's my favorite from start to finish of the shows.
Yeah, that actually sounds really interesting. Actually, I didn't know there was so much to it.
Yeah, I didn't know either. To be fair, I know even less about Star Trek than Evan because I've mostly seen the recent movies, and because my mom's a huge fan, she showed me the most recent show. It was Strange New Worlds. I like that one a lot. I don't know much else about Star Trek though.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds is good. I enjoy that. The new stuff's pretty good. I enjoy those. Strange New Worlds kind of carries on that original series and kind of Next Generation vibe. And
because it's the only window where I know a lot of the characters people talk about, like Scotty or Uhura or anything like that. That's because when people talk about those characters and stuff, I'm just gonna be thinking about those versions instead of the ones from the '60s.
Right. Yeah, we've kind of reached that point where there are new people playing all of these, because this is because Strange New Worlds has recast a lot of those people. Plus, we had the original versions. Plus, we had the movie versions, which are different. So because they're
you know what's interesting though, if you think about it, that the upcoming Disney Zorro show on Disney Plus is going to be very similar. It's going to be the original '50s Disney Zorro with an entirely new cast and with new themes and stuff like that.
Well, because when you write these things, even though they're set. Star Trek and Zorro have this in common. They are set in specific time periods. But even though that's the case, they are still written reflective of the time they're written. So, writing...
Especially Disney Zorro.
Right, so writing Zorro today, you would tell stories a little differently than writing Zorro in the 60s or even the Antonio Banderas one. Or the 90s, they're all written a little different because the writers and producers are also impacted by the real world. Things change, attitudes change, what is proper and not proper changes, what is acceptable and not acceptable, or what different stories you were not allowed to tell at one point you can tell, or vice versa.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a lot of those things that impact the story. So and it's one of those things that nostalgia, and this is a big thing too with Star Trek, is people go, well, why can't the new shows be like the old shows? And it's like, well, because the old shows were made 40 years ago and things have changed. So there's that. I mean, because there's a lot of differences. Like there's a lot of things there's a lot of words and language you can use on TV today that you could not in the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, there's big differences and things like that, and tone and what you can do, and So and I figure Zorro will probably face some of that as well when it comes out. People going, why can't it be like the old one?
The old days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. I'm worried about that for like all of the upcoming Zorro stories, especially like we've talked about this before on the show, but the CW Zorro show, it was going to be a completely different setting. It was going to be like a female Zorro who not like a gender swapped Don Diego, but like a completely new character in the future. Being Zorro, and like it sounded really cool. It was gonna be like Mad Max and Cyberpunk mixed together, but with Zorro, and it wasn't canceled because of this, but it had a bunch of people going like, "Why isn't this like the old Zorro? Why isn't this like Don Diego? And like stuff like that." And I'm like,
sometimes dealing with fandom is a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, you hear this, why can't it be like the one before? But then if you make it just like this, then they go, why can't you do anything original?
Why isn't it exactly like it?
Why aren't you doing anything original?
Yeah, it's either you can't. It's either if you make it more like the original, it's one of two things. It's why isn't it enough like the original, or why can't you do anything original? Like they bounce between the two things. And I think with Zorro. I think with Zorro fans, it's a little better than a lot of other fandoms because it's very small and we don't get a lot of content very much, so we're often a lot more thankful.
And it's been quite a while. It's been quite a while since, we've had new Zorro.
Usually, it has been a while. Oh my god.
And here's another. I'll give you another quick just tie-in to Deep Space Nine. Duncan Reger, who played Zorro in the 90s, does appear on Deep Space Nine in several episodes.
No! Cool. I have to check it out now. I love him.
Who does he play?
He plays, he is the first minister of the planet Bajor. He's only in a handful of episodes spread out over it. But but yes, he is in there. Yeah. He's a former freedom fighter who was one of the leaders that helped run the invaders off their planet.
Makes sense for a guy who played Zorro before.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does.
So
doesn't make sense for a guy who played Dracula, but it makes sense for a guy who plays Zorro.
Right. Well, oddly enough, one of the villains that he goes up against is played by Frank Langella, who was Dracula.
Wait, hold on. Duncan Regier and Frank Langella in the same show?
Frank Langella is in like 3 episodes. I think they're both in the same episode, but I could be wrong. But
you have no idea how much that absolutely rocks my world as a Zorro fan.
The second season of Deep Space Nine opened with a 3-parter, and Frank Langella is the villain of the 3-parter. And
that is so funny.
He's so good.
Yeah, like he plays a good Zorro, but he also plays a really good villain. I can imagine. He has that aura to him.
And then Duncan Reger is just, when he's on it, he's still got that charm and that everyman kind of, you want to like him.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. So those some nice little ties there. He also did an episode of Next Generation, but it wasn't a good one.
Aw, that's unfortunate.
But I was gonna ask, like, speaking of like Zorro and stuff like that again.
That's right. So this is a Zorro podcast. I should say.
This is a Zorro podcast.
We've been talking for 30 minutes about Star Trek.
But I was gonna say about your anthology story, Fox Hunt. I was curious because it's a really good story, by the way. I read it when earlier this month when I was trying to survive my first week and a half of my new job. Zorro's exploits really carried me through a lot of that, but I wanted to know what was the process of writing the story for your anthology short story, Fox Hunt.
Oh, cool. Yeah, well, the first thing I did, because it had been a while since I had read any or watched any Zorro. So I went out and got some of the reprint collections of the original stories that Bold Venture had.
That's a good
Bold
idea.
Venture had put those out, and so I did some reading, and I had read some of them, but not all of them in the past. So it was really cool. So I enjoyed those, and so that gave me ideas, and then I watched the movie again and things like that, just to kind of get into just to kind of immerse yourself in the world, get yourself kind of in that moment. And so then from there, I just start taking notes and jotting notes about what would be cool. And one of the things I do when I write anything for an anthology, because there's going to be 10, 15, 20 other stories in it. The first few ideas I get, if they come to me easy, I just ignore them, because my assumption is somebody else has already thought of that.
Right.
And so the idea for Fox Hunt kind of came, it was like my fifth or sixth plot idea. And I just like the idea of this guy who, it's a simple story. He just wants to be the greatest swordsman in the world. So he goes around the world challenging great swordsmen to duels and then kills them. And of course, who is one of the most well-known swordsmen in the world? This mysterious guy, because the lore around Zorro is bigger than Zorro, And
that's what I always loved about the Zorro franchise. It's like a lot of people don't recognize that, but there is a lot of characters that surround Zorro that also make up a lot of the really cool parts of the stories. And without them, if it was just Zorro fighting like nameless characters and that was pretty much it, it wouldn't be as interesting as it is with those characters.
Right, because there's I assume that in Los Angeles during that period, everything that goes wrong, they're blaming, the authorities are going, that must be Zorro's doing, whether he had anything to do with it or not. If there's a problem, I bet that darn Zorro's involved. It's like J. Jonah Jameson. Every problem in New York, Spider-Man,
Spider-Man, it's something to do with it.
Yeah, so so the legend of Zorro, as cool as Zorro is and as gifted and talented and all that Zorro does, the legend has kind of outgrown him, and so those type of things to where it's just the mention of his name, kind of brings out, like one of the things about the Antonio Banderas movies, when he's an adult and he meets Anthony Hopkins as an older man, and as soon as he realizes he's Zorro, you can see the reverence on Don Alejandro's face when he's like, Zorro? It's like, oh my God, this.
Yeah, like every trace of anger just melts away from his face as soon as he realizes that it's Don Diego talking to him. Yeah. And keep in mind, he's also like super drunk too. So like normally he just instantly sobers up.
Him right up. Yeah. Well, that's like the very first Zorro story, where we meet Diego, and Diego and Garcia are talking and all this stuff's going on, and then Zorro shows up, and we don't actually know until the very end of the story that Diego is Zorro.
Yeah.
So it's that really cool. And I love the idea of playing with the secret identity, because you have to play to be the great hero. You have to play the buffoon publicly. And Diego is always having to do things, so you have to be creative. Like there's a bit where the villain of Fox Hunt shows up, and he's very boisterous and loud, and I'm gonna kick Zorro's, and I'm gonna this and I'm gonna that, and he's very loud and boisterous, and and Diego is standing there, he's just like, I just want to go up and punch this guy, but I can't, so he has to find ways to, even before he appears as Zorro to do anything against him, I have in this bit where they have this face off during the party, and where he has to prove his point without blowing his cover.
Yeah.
And so that allows so probably as great as the sword skills and all that is, Diego has to be smart. He has to be a planner. He has to know how to do things when he can't just use a sword. And that's fun to write. I enjoy the challenge of making him still be heroic while playing the buffoon.
Yeah, those are always some of the most fun parts, especially like in the 1940 mark of Zorro, because they barely have him do swashbuckling. That one, half of it is just him outwitting, outsmarting, and just messing with everyone, and it's really, really entertaining.
Yeah, and when you're doing prose, it's hard to write sword fights in prose that can go on like a sword fight in a movie or a TV show. Because you can only swords clashed so many times, So you have to be.
You gotta get creative.
Yeah, you have to get creative in how you're doing all that, and so you don't have in prose. You don't have quite the elaborate sword fights because you write it in a way so the audience sees the sword fight in their mind, and they're making the sword fight better in their mind because they see it moving with whatever image of Zorro is in their head, and so doing it that way, and so getting into the character's mind and seeing what they're doing and seeing how they're doing it, and then kind of kick off the sword fight, let the audience fill in some of that. It's the same way when you're writing murders. I don't have to be grisly when I write the murder because the audience will fill in those blanks and actually make it more horrific than I could probably write it. And so writing the sword fighting is kind of the same way. It's like it's just like okay, they have a sword fight.
Yeah.
Ow.
Although
I do use more words.
Writing. Yeah. Although like writing the ins and outs of like if you know more specifics about sword fighting, I think you can get away with having more detail of like, and then the character did this technique, but the character countered with this technique. Like both work very well.
But you also have to be careful. Like if your audience doesn't know those terms, you can lose them. So you have to do it.
That is fair. Yeah.
You have to do it in a way like, I've got at one point they're fighting in the dark in Fox Hunt. Like the bad guy has.
That was a very intense part. You wrote that.
The bad guy knows where everything is. He has trained. He can move through this house blindfolded. He knows where everything is. Zorro does not. He's his first time in this place. So having them leap over things or fall down things or trip over things gives movement to it. And so, but as opposed to just two guys just clack, 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 their swords together, it gives more movement. And I kind of like that, So that gives you those type of things. He ducked or he leapt over, he dodges to the left and the sword misses him. That that kind of thing.
Yeah. You wrote it very well.
You.
Like that was such an intense scene, and I absolutely love the main villain. I don't remember his name fully, but I do remember a lot of the stuff that he did, and I remember a lot of his vibes. He reminded me so much of characters like Kraven the Hunter from Spider-Man, or like the villain from The Most Dangerous Game. The whole story reminds me a lot of Most Dangerous Game.
It really, because that if you're gonna steal.
True.
Well, it's more you were inspired.
Yeah.
Just say you were inspired by it.
Sure. Yeah. The villain's name is Don Rafael Cotto.
Ooh, that's a good name.
And I had to look that up because I didn't remember it either. But yeah.
Oh, that's very funny.
So, there's been a lot of stuff written since I wrote that. So yeah, the memory gets a little fuzzy.
That's very fair. That's very fair. But speaking of the story, Is there any scrapped story story ideas you wanted to do instead of it that you wound up not doing?
Yeah, I have this idea in my head, and I just can't do it because logistically it doesn't work for the time frame. But I've got this image
Yeah.
in my head. I would love to see Zorro on top of a train having a sword fight with a guy on top of a train.
Oh, that would be
I
cool.
But there were no
well
trains.
Yeah.
yeah. Although I mean, if you've seen The Legend of
Mhm.
Zorro,
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you just.
Well,
Yeah.
but the story I'm writing takes place during the time of the books.
oh, it's the
Yeah.
Don Diego
Yeah,
stories.
so
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes
so
sense.
yeah, so I had to make sure I stuck within the time frame of the books, and so
Yeah.
there were no trains yet.
Understandable.
Yeah, although if you wrote an Alejandro Murrieta story, it's like, why am I fighting
Yeah,
on a train?
now that
again?
could work. Yeah, but in the context of the character, the version I was working on, there were no
Yeah, yeah.
trains to use. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
that
fair
idea
enough.
of how cool would it be for them sword fighting on top of a moving train?
Yeah.
It would be pretty cool, despite the historical
Yeah,
inaccuracies.
Yeah. Exactly.
but it's one of those things. It's like, man, I want to do this, but I can't. So just
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've written another one for next year, and that was the first thing I thought. I was like, just still have to throw it away. So
One final question before we move on to the next section. What would you say is in store for your writing career? Like, what is in the future for you?
okay, well, I'm always working. I have several comic books coming out in the next year.
Mhm.
I have a 6-book series I did for an educational publisher uh, called Crimes in Time. I'm not sure if that's going to be the
Okay.
official title, but that's what we're calling it. Crimes in Time, and
Okay.
it's 6 standalone graphic novels that are
All
crime
right.
stories set during historical moments in time.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Okay.
So the publisher provided these 6 historical events, and then I wrote a story to fit them. But then I also had to do a write up of the real event because
All
it's an
right.
Yeah.
educational publisher. And so so they gave me 6 events. Like one of them was the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, the
Mhm.
sinking of the Titanic, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the blackout in New York in 1977, I think.
Okay.
Hurricane Katrina, Mount St. Helens eruption, that kind of thing. So so
Yeah.
they gave me the real event, and then I created a crime story that worked.
Huh.
That it had to take place during or around or whatever. They had to. It couldn't be separate. You couldn't just watch Mount St. Helens on TV from somewhere else. You had to be it has
Yeah.
to be connected.
Yeah.
So I did that, and those are in the process of being drawn now. I saw some pages just the other day, and they look really good.
Huh.
So I've done that.
So
I've written
really.
several other things. Lots of
Yeah.
comics coming. I did a couple that have already been
Nice.
sold to a streaming platform,
Mhm.
so they're going to adapt them
Ooh.
into live action.
No.
Yes.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
cool.
that's pretty cool. It's one is called. They're company-owned characters. One is like a superhero vigilante thing called Shank, which is about a gang war, but with people. Some of the people have superpowers.
All right.
And so that's a
Interesting.
4 issue. Think Daredevil or Batman gritty kind of that kind of
Yeah.
that kind of
Oh.
feel. And then the other one is called Resurrection, where the Superman of that universe is murdered
Mhm. Oh.
and goes to
Interesting.
hell
Okay.
because we find out
Oh.
he wasn't as good as we thought he was, and so
Mhm.
the devil of that universe is tormenting him, has captured him, and is tormenting him. And then
Okay.
he escapes and he comes back, but he comes back and he's broken, and he starts
Mm.
killing, and so now there's this big hole. There's a problem. He's back. He's not well. He's unhinged, and
Mhm.
so there's a lot of trying to stop him, and his friends really don't want to kill him. They want to save him, and so there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really fun. A lot of big action set pieces in that. So
All right.
those were fun to write. I grew up reading superhero comics, so getting to write superheroes is always fun.
Yeah.
So I've got those, and then a few novellas. I do a couple of series of my own or crime fiction. Snow Hunt is the 7th book in the Snow series, and it'll be out September or October. So there's more. Several novels of that. I have more Domino Lady coming up, which is an old pulp character that I write regularly. More Lance Starr, which is a pulp character that I own, but write those regularly. And I'm doing more The Lone Ranger. I wrote a Lone Ranger story, which will be out in November.
Can't wait to read that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was fun. That was another one that was like Zorro. It's like, man, I grew up, watching.
Yeah, Lone Ranger's another character who, like Zorro, is in need of some love.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
And you can't write Zorro without hearing the William Tell overture in your head. It just. So that's good motivational music too. Like I found it on like YouTube. Hit play, go to work.
Nice.
So stuff like that. I'm doing a Green Hornet novella.
Nice.
So I've written Green Hornet twice in short stories before. So I'm doing a novella. I pitched an idea that the publisher liked, and then so other than that, and there's a lot of anthology stuff and short stories, and there's always 2 or 3 novels in the pipeline at some point. Right now I'm currently working on the 3rd book in the Dante series, which is a Western horror series. The first 2 books are out. I'm working on book 3 now, and I'm currently writing a full cast audio drama for a publisher over in the UK, which is a murder mystery set on a casino cruise spaceship.
Huh.
Ooh.
I like the idea.
So it's like a cruise. It's a cruise ship in space, and the house detective has to solve the murder. And so I'm writing that.
That's pretty cool,
Nice.
actually.
Yeah, there's always a lot of stuff.
That...
I'm always juggling 5 or 6 projects at one time, so I bounce between them, and
All right.
You know what the inside of my brain looks like.
I can see why you said you were really busy earlier. That is a lot of projects.
This has really been. I don't know what happened, but it's the last 2 or 3 years has probably been the busiest I've been as a writer. Where publishers are coming to me with stuff as well as me doing my own stuff. Which is awesome. Right. I'm that's not a complaint. I'm very happy. But during the pandemic, I was behind on things until the pandemic, and it's amazing how much work you can get done when you're home all the time. Because I do a lot of conventions and events like that, and so for like 2 years I didn't do any. And so I got caught up, and then I got ahead, and so I'm trying to stay ahead. It's not easy, but I'm trying to stay ahead.
Oh yeah. Now the opposites happen for me, because now that I got a new job, I can barely do a lot of the stuff that I want to do. Like I have a bunch of events on the server and stuff that I do all the time, like movie nights and like streaming stuff. But I have a harder time, making time for that now because of my job. So it's like,
because it takes a lot. I mean, like to do an hour podcast doesn't take an hour. It takes a lot more than an hour.
True. It takes a lot of time.
Editing and promotion, and it's in the writing's the same way. I can't write a short story as fast as I can read one, because man, if I could, I'd be awesome. But there's all these other things that we end up doing that suck up a lot of our time. It's all important stuff, but promoting, getting out and, like I said, I do a lot of conventions and events, getting out, trying to get my books in front of readers. I do a lot of podcasts and interviews and things like that, and it's all fun and I love it and it's all helpful. But when I'm doing it, I'm not writing. So you have to kind of juggle.
That is fair.
You have to kind of learn how to juggle that, and I've gotten pretty good at it. I've been doing this a while, but there are times.
I'm still in the process of learning.
Well, it's one of those things. I learned it all by screwing stuff up. I'm very much self-taught. I've done just a couple of things. I've taken a few classes here and there, and I've certainly talked to other professionals and other writers and things like that, and gotten advice and feedback. But I've learned it all from either watching other people seeing how other people do it, or by me screwing something up so badly, I'm going, okay, I'm never going to do that again.
Yeah, that is actually pretty impressive because you are a pretty good writer. So that trial and error process must have really helped.
Well, like I said, I've been doing it a while too. So when I go back and look at some of my older stuff, I kind of grown a little. But
me too. That's with me with a lot of my YouTube content.
Yeah. But those groans are important because you learned doing them. You did it.
Yeah, that is fair.
If you wait until you're perfect, you'll never do anything.
Yeah,
that is true. You miss all the shots. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
And a lot of times you don't know something doesn't work until you try it, because in your head that's a great idea. That will work. I've had stories where I poured every ounce of my soul into these things, and they come out and nobody cares. And I've done other stories where it's just like, oh, I'll just write this, I don't care. And I write it, and suddenly, this is the best thing you've ever done. And I'm like, so you just never know. You never know what's, because once you do it and it leaves, like when you guys hit send on the podcast and it goes out, at that point you lose a little control of it, then it doesn't become what you think of it. It becomes what your audience thinks of it.
That is true, and it's interesting seeing like people's reactions and stuff like that, and you're just like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Not just my podcast, but like other content too, because I do a lot of YouTube content and stuff like that, and I'll see people talking about the content and stuff like that and how I do it, and I'm just like, wow, that's not what I expected at all.
And sometimes I talk to readers and they'll be like, oh my God, I got this out of the book. And I'm like, I never thought of that. They're like, well, how did you not think of it? If I got it out of your story, you must have thought it. And I was like, no.
Nope.
Not really. Because sometimes, people, audience brings their own
interpretation.
Interpretation to it.
Yeah, I swear, death of the author can be an absolutely wild concept sometimes.
Yeah.
But so I think that's pretty much all of the questions that I have for you. Evan, do you have any questions for Mr. Nash?
Well, I was going to ask more of your original works, but it seems like you kind of went over a lot of them already. So no, my questions have been answered.
Yeah. Most of the stuff that I do on my own, I do a lot of crime fiction. I love crime fiction, action, adventure.
Yeah.
I love killing people. It's
same here. I love it too.
And so I do a lot of that because most of the stuff I do for publishers tends to be period specific. Like Zorro or the pulp stuff, or or the sci-fi stuff. It tends to be a certain era in time. Whereas I do a lot of stuff on my own that's modern day. Because you know what? Every once in a while, it'd be nice to just have somebody whip out a cell phone. And that also, we were talking about the challenges of writing. There are certain stories you can't tell the same way today you could in the 70s because technology. You could have a story. You could have a story in the 70s where your main character is on one end of town and discovers that there is going to be an assassination attempt on the other end of town in an hour, and the plot is I've got to get across town in an hour to stop it. That plot doesn't work today unless without more to it, because even if you can't get them on the phone, you can text, you can put it on social media, you will find somebody that's already across town to do something.
Yeah.
So playing with the technology gives you new insights and new ways to tell some of the same stories.
So I think that's it for the Q&A part. So what we do next here is a news section where I just kind of ramble on about all the news that has happened over, since the last episode came out. And the first one, I had to actually add this today. It's that would you like to share it, or would you want me to share it? Mr.
Sure.
Nash?
There will be another Zorro anthology coming out in 2024. The publisher has asked us not to share the title yet, but I have a story in that one, as well as. Oh, come on, jump in.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not alone.
I'm also working on one.
So we will both be returning for the new Zorro anthology, and I'm very excited.
You'll be returning. This is gonna be my first ever.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
I'm super excited and super nervous about it. I can't wait to show you guys what I've been, and I'm also just so honored. I hate to like toot my own horn, but if you told like little 10-year-old me when I was a boy that I was gonna be making like official Zorro stuff, he would not believe me. He would have never believed me.
Yeah.
Believe me, I understand completely. You know, the Bobby who was just starting to think, wouldn't it be cool to tell stories? You know, if you had told him that, hey, one day you're going to get to write. You remember that Kolchak the Night Stalker movie you watched? You're going to get to write him one day. You know,
and you just can't believe it. It's like, how could me, out of all people, be able to do that? And it's like,
or the other one that gets me is like, I remember the very first comic books I ever read, or those early ones. You know, there's a part of me that's like, had I told young 6-year-old me reading those comics that not only would one day you be writing them, but you would get to know the guys that wrote those and drew those, and you would be friends with some of these people that you grew up reading, and I would have never have thought.
Yeah, and I've been doing the same too. It's been an absolute pleasure knowing a lot of the people who've worked on Zorro stuff, like you or Audrey Parente and Rich Harvey, and Susan Kite and Francisco Silva, and all of the other ones that we've been able to talk to on the podcast as well. It's just been such a pleasure knowing all of you guys and being able to talk to people who worked on Zorro stuff, and now I get to be one of the people that works on Zorro stuff.
Welcome to the club.
Oh my god, it makes me so giddy.
And it's a nice little club, because it
is.
I mean, even though there's been a lot of Zorro stuff over the years, I mean, it's still a small handful. I mean, it's a small circle of people that have written the character.
Yeah.
So you're part of a bit of an exclusive club.
I know. I'm so excited.
And I tell you, there's nothing like the feeling of holding the book in your hand. I mean, for the first time, even after all,
I cannot wait.
Even after all these years, and I've been published for quite a number of years. Even after all these years, when I get comp copies in the mail and I open that box, there's just that feeling of, ooh, I helped make this. That's. It still gets me after all these years.
I cannot wait to experience that for the first time.
It's there's a euphoria there that it's hard to put into words, which I know is weird for people whose job it is to put things into words. But but there's a sensation.
Some things are just that special.
And I'm thrilled that even after all these years later, I haven't lost that feeling. There's
still that feeling of magic that's still around, and like the fact that you haven't lost that is honestly really good, because like it should feel magical every time. Like it should never get old.
Yeah, there are sometimes while I'm doing the work that it's just like, oh, this is just a day job. This is the job. I love the job, but it's my job. But holding a book in your hand, getting out, doing stuff like this, talking to other people who have read it, or showing it to people at conventions or whatever. Because writing is such a solitary. I'm alone in an office when I write.
And I'm just sitting on my computer all hunched over listening to music while writing.
And so you write the book, you're kind of in this bubble, and then it goes out, and then like I said, it could be a year and a half later before it sees print. So by then you've moved on and done a few other projects, but then it comes out and people start talking about it, or then you're just like, oh yeah, there's that. I forgot about this. That's when the feeling gets me more so sometimes than when I'm actually doing the work, because when I'm writing it, my thought is on don't screw it up.
Yeah, that's how I've been feeling this whole time. There's a lot of pressure. I'm obviously not going to give any details away of what's going on in the process, other than it's stressful. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm currently whittling down all the outline and stuff like that. I'm gonna start writing the story proper pretty soon, but it's hard. You gotta live up to that standard of storytelling, not just of like the other Zorro anthologies and Bold Venture Press books that I've been reading since I was like 19. But
God, I feel old now.
Also, like the I was 16 when I got the first Zorro pulp Bold Venture Press reprinting.
Gotcha.
It was my 16th birthday, so but you know, you got to live up to the 104 years of storytelling that's been done with the characters. Like, how can I spin something new with this franchise while making it still feel recognizably Zorro? And I feel like the story I've gotten, well, I'm very tight-lipped about what it is. Obviously, yeah, I have to be. But it's not easy though. It's not easy. But I feel like I've hit that perfect balance of something new but something familiar, and I can't wait to show you guys.
Yeah, because these pre-existing properties, they come with a built-in audience, which is good, but it's not always the same audience. There are going to be people that read these anthologies that have never seen the 60s Disney one. There are going to be people that have only seen the Banderas movies or only seen the 90s. So that's the only thing that's their knowledge of Zorro.
Yeah, there's a lot of fragmentation with Zorro fans and stuff. It can be frustrating sometimes, but it is what it is.
And also, but it's also like you can't. So sometimes you do things. So it's like, well, why isn't this character in there? And it's like, well, that character was created just for that movie. We're not doing the movie version. We're doing the book version.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, man, the Green Hornet was like that because we were doing the TV version. And there are characters in the TV show that were not in the books. And there were characters in the books that were not in the TV show. And so you would sometimes get those questions of like, well, why isn't this? You know, and it's like, we don't have the rights to that. You know, we only have the rights to this.
And with the previous two anthologies, every time I read them, they changes chapters. It changes completely different continuity. Sometimes it'll be the 50s Disney one. It'll be the 90s Duncan Regeer one. It'll be like the one from the old pulp stories. And I'm just like, okay, it's this continuity. It has this cast of characters. Oh wait, now it's this continuity. It's this cast of characters. Oh, this is a completely original story. And all of a sudden now there's Sergeant Garcia and Captain Ramon from the two different places. They're in the same place. It's very chaotic, and sometimes I need to take like a double take, like, wait a minute, in order to. But I think honestly the diversity of stories of Zorro and its universes and stuff like that honestly are one of the more appealing like parts of it. It's like I love how different a lot of it can get while still having the same magic in the same vibes, and I absolutely love that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And ultimately, I'm excited to work on this book so much. I imagine you're also excited too. And when it comes out, I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yes, it was very exciting. It was very exciting to be invited back, yes.
Yeah. And, all right, moving on from that very exciting piece of news is another exciting piece of news that I'm happy to report. So, we finally got to see an actual image of the Sequoia Studios Zorro show, as well as a release date. So, this whole time, since episode 1 of the show came out, we have been hyping up the Amazon Prime Sequoia Studios Zorro TV show starring Miguel Bernadette as Don Diego. And we finally have seen an image of what he looks like as Zorro, as well as the reveal that it's going to be released in early 2024. I'm a little sad about that because it was originally going to release at the end of 2023, but honestly, if they probably need more time to iron stuff out, which I'm fine with that.
Sorry. Huh? I was going to say also probably maybe need more time because of the writer's strike and stuff like that going on.
The writer's strike is U.S. exclusive.
Oh right,
this show is being written in Spain.
It's Spain. Oh my god, I'm so dumb.
Yeah,
you're not dumb. There's a lot of Zorro projects going on right now, and the Disney one has.
Is the CW one still happening, or am I? Oh.
The CW one was canceled.
Yeah.
Actually, it was canceled probably because of events that led up to the strike. So
yeah. See, that's how confused I am. I always forget. Okay, is this one still going on? No, this one was just announced, but is this one still happening? No, that one's
Well,
so much.
And the CW was purchased by another company and they canceled a lot of stuff.
Yeah. There was a lot of stuff that was just lost in the shuffle and stuff like that.
What a shame.
And it was mostly a money thing, you know. They were from what I've read, they were looking to do shows that cost less. And Zorro or like the superhero shows that the CW were doing are not cheap shows. With all the
that is true. But the Sequoia Studios it was revealed like the outfit and the sword and stuff like that. And oh my god, the outfit is so good. I'm gonna go post it in the podcast text chat so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Where is it? And I'll probably post it on the podcast video as well.
Oh, that does look good.
And like I absolutely just love the mask. Looks so good. I think I love how very simplistic it is, because after like it's a good change of pace from the Antonio Banderas outfit, which is very colorful and stylistic, whereas this is like more plain and bold and stuff like that, and I really like that. I love how the mask, like the nose covering, kind of sticks out a lot. It kind of reminds me of like the Robert Pattinson Batman costume a little bit, which I really like. I'm normally not a Batman guy, but that movie really worked for me.
Oh yeah, that movie's good.
And the size of the sombrero cordobas, like the cape is just the right size.
Yeah.
Like everything is like that. I think the only criticism I have is that like his rapier is kind of like ornate, like a little too ornate for my taste. I prefer the more like cup guard.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's almost completely perfect.
I think for me looking at it too, I think he should be able to blend into the dark. I think that's a good, thing for Zorro to be able to kind of like move through the shadows and attack from, come out of the dark and use the shadows to his advantage. Plus, I always like the idea of Zorro having a very man of the people, simple costume.
Yeah. I always love that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the more ornate designs, but you can never go wrong with like just a simple like plain outfit, kind of like how the 1940 version does.
Well, it also depends too. Is it going to be on TV or the big screen? Those make a difference too. Your big screen, you need a little more. You're going to see more details, so they want to,
Yeah, and then because like comparing like the Tyrone Power outfit, like that one is like you can real quality costume work for a costume that barely shows up, and then you got like the Guy Williams outfit. It's you can tell it's made on a lot cheaper like materials and stuff like that, and like because it's for a TV budget and stuff like that. Whereas, but like it is so well made and detailed for a TV show outfit, and I just think that's so incredible.
Yeah,
like
they didn't just recycle the Antonio Banderas outfit again like that other show did.
Yeah,
well, and also,
okay. We'll get to that later. We'll get to that later.
Also, TVs are bigger now. The pictures are cleaner and crisper than they were back in the Guy Williams days.
Yeah, fair.
Whereas they were very grainy and small, and so they do. Yeah, they have to be a little more, I guess, up to date on that. Just because if you're watching it in HD on an HD TV, you can pick out every crease and wrinkle and fleck
that is true.
Dust on that black suit.
Yeah,
true. And speaking of HD, there's another cool piece of Zorro news, is that so previously the Mask of Zorro was released in 4K HD, It was, but now the Legend of Zorro has had something similar. It's not the exact same one. The Mask of Zorro was released like 4K Steelbook, but like this is more, this is 4K Blu-ray. But it's still really cool to see these films being, revitalized and stuff like that. And I know I really want to get copies of both movies in 4K because that would be so amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a small piece of news. I just think it's really cool. First Mask of Zorro gets that, 4K refurbishing, and then now Legend of Zorro gets the same. And I'm kind of hoping, maybe, like, not 4K versions, but, like, more, like, tuning up and stuff like that.
Kind of enhanced, cleaned up versions. And...
Yeah, it would be really awesome. And the last piece of Zorro news we have for today is comic related. In that we now, along with a few other new images and stuff like that and more details, we also have a Kickstarter page from Sean Gordon Murphy for his upcoming Zorro comic, Zorro Man of the Dead. It's for anyone who is not in the loop, it is a Zorro comic run that is going to be done by the same guy who did the Batman White Knight comic series, which is a very good read, by the way. And it's essentially a modern times Zorro story. It's about a man whose parents are murdered by the cartels in Mexico, and he kind of loses himself a little bit and becomes the Zorro from fiction, and fights the cartels along with his sister, who serves as like a Bernardo figure.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, and that's all we know about it so far, outside of course, the Kickstarter page.
Yeah,
and if you want to support...
That cover image of him there over the car looks really good.
It does look good. I love the art that Sean Gordon Murphy's been posting so far. It looks so clean. It just looks so cool. Like,
yeah.
The outfit has a lot of, like, Guy Williams vibes in it, but also, like, it reminds me a lot of, not just Alex Toth, but a lot of the recent American Mythology Zorro art as well. Which, I really love a lot of the art that's done in those comics, too. I love their take on Don Diego's design and stuff like that, and I love this one, too. Especially for this new character I can't wait to see. We don't know much about the comic, though, right now, which really sucks, but we'll be learning more about it by the time October rolls around, which I'm really excited about. Any thoughts before we move off and we talk about our specific Zorro story for the day?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. Let's talk about the... So every episode of the cast of Zorro, we have a specific piece of Zorro media that we cover. And...
homework, if you will.
Yeah, pretty much homework. Homework but fun, right?
Yeah.
Right? But for this episode, we will be covering the first episode of El Zorro La Espada y la Rosa. It is a telenovela that was an international effort between a lot of different Latin American countries, like Mexico, Argentina, and apparently a lot of different countries.
Everywhere except America.
True, but the show itself didn't come out in the U.S. sadly. It came out in multiple other countries, like including Brazil and apparently Russia, according to some of my Russian Zorro fans.
Wait,
but not the U.S.
So that means there's a Russian dub of this show out there
or like subs or something like that. I have to ask them again.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. It's also very frustrating too because like. The Legend of Zorro came out 2 years before. There was still probably a decent bit of hype for it. We could have, ZPI could have made some.
Bang.
Excuse me, ZPI could have made some, money off of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's a shame. It's honestly really sad. But with the help of a friend of mine, I recently managed to translate the first episode of the show, and it is actually on my YouTube channel if you guys want to ever check it out. But it's. Honestly, it's a really good show. Like, I'm sad that I never got to watch it until recently. I think it is a really good addition to the Zorro lore, and I think it has a lot of its own unique little quirks that I've kind of fallen in love with. Mm-hmm. And I think the first one I'd like to talk about is just the opening theme song.
Oh, yes.
I've never it was done by Beyonce. I've never listened to Beyonce in my life, but oh my gosh, she kills it with that theme song. It is so catchy. Yeah. Like I just absolutely, I don't think I'm of the opinion there's no such thing as a bad Zorro opening, but that one is really good. That one is just absolutely delectable. I love it. And is there anything specific that you guys really liked about the show? Because I also want to get your guys' opinion.
I was gonna say the one main thing that's always been sticking in my mind ever since I watched it, and it's Mankata. I think that's the name. He is my favorite. He's my favorite character. One of my new favorite Zorro characters. I am in love with who he is. The guy with the eye patch.
Yeah, he is. Oh God, let me get his name out. Fernando Sanchez de Mancada.
Yes, him. I think he is probably. I'm probably going to be keeping up with the show whenever it gets translated again, just for more of him, because I think like he has the potential of being like. Because here's the thing, I like Zorro, but he has a very miserable rogues gallery. Like it's usually
that is true.
We've had conversations about this before on this show.
Yeah, we've talked about it before
about the rogues gallery of Zorro, and I feel like we need more like interesting like sure he's kind of like bare bones. He's like what was he? He was like, oh, I'm the evil. Like it was like evil father. I don't remember his exact what he is, but
he is the evil father of Esmeralda.
Yeah, well, first of all, that's actually something different. He's not just an evil alcalde or corrupt person or like corrupt government official.
He's also an abusive dad.
He's just an awful father. And he just chews up every scene he's in. Every time
he does.
Every time he gives you that look with his one good eye, I just laugh.
He just gives you like the Rock eyebrow raise when he's angry. It's so funny, and like his dialogue too. Like obviously I can't like comment on like it's a Spanish performance, and I can't understand all of the complexities that would go into a performance in Spanish. But I absolutely love how it feels like he is chewing the scenery with every line of dialogue, especially just like when he gets as like. How do I like? It always cracks me up when like, for example, when he's talking to his other daughter, Mariangel, and she's being upset. It's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to find a good husband in California with all the drama my sister's causing. And he's like, hee-ha, por Dios. And I that one always cracks me up so much because like, it's simultaneously he's a very serious guy, but he also has like this flair of like dramatic humor to him that I really love.
He's very sarcastic. He's very sarcastic with everything.
He is. Yeah, he's very sarcastic. He's always kind of throwing in jabs at people, especially Esmeralda, and a lot of his dialogue is really interesting. And I love the part where he just randomly just screams and gets really angry when he finds out that someone took his luggage. Like, I love that because you don't expect that because he's normally someone that keeps like at a pretty low volume.
Yeah.
And that just one that just suddenly just. Oh my God!
He really. I agree on this. He does chew the scenery quite a bit, but he also, in the tradition of the best soap actors, he's got this kind of snarl to him when he.
Oh yeah.
He's good in those.
He does,
those moments. Because soap actors are really good in those. The camera's going to get a real good close up of that look that leads us into the commercial or into the next scene, and he's real like when he. It really struck me where he's telling her, bring her back by her hair if necessary. This look on his face is just, he's doing everything but twirling his mustache,
Yes.
True. And he might as well be. He'll probably will. By the time the series ends, he'll probably do it at least once.
And I don't know if it's too early for say, but I think he is probably one of my favorite Zorro villains. Like, top 5 of my favorite Zorro villains. Out of everything
that is fair.
Out of everything Zorro I've seen, I've seen a lot because of Eve Jack. Coral Herrera, always going to be my number one. He's always going to be the best Zorro villain in my opinion. But
he is a pretty dope villain.
But when it comes to just the performance of this guy, the actor is what really sells this character for me. If they had anyone else who didn't put the amount of like sort of the sort of like I don't really know how to explain it with them, but like this sort of like oomph that really drives home that yes, I am an awful evil father, and I know it, and I don't care that you don't like me because of that. That's the kind of vibe he gives me, and I love him for that. He is such
special shout out. Special shout out to Arturo Pinochet.
Yep.
That's the
actor.
Yeah. Yes, that is the actor behind Moncada. Special shout out to him for being able to play such a bastard, and also even when he's.
I was gonna say, I think the top four, the four main actors are all really good. The guy playing Diego and Alejandro are really good, especially together. I enjoyed their scenes.
Oh my god, yeah.
And then Esmeralda is fantastic. I mean,
she's good.
Esmeralda has managed to jump into my top 3 favorite Zorro love interest characters, and it's just from her first episode alone, where she's had literally no interaction with Diego or Zorro outside of calling him a moron for tripping on her.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, she is so well written, and like, I'm not like. There are a decent amount of well-written female Zorro characters, but, like, not like her, if that makes sense.
Well, she really jumps back and forth from spoiled brat to conniver to caring. She does jump between those things quite a bit.
Yeah, because, she lives in a pretty brutal, loveless household, and she likes to take advantage of everything that could, help her survive that. But you can also tell that she has a good heart inside. And, she does want to... The thing about her is that she wants to be loved as much as she loves others. But the problem is that nobody outside of her aunt is willing to actually give her that love. And it makes her feel depressed and angry and constantly rebellious because she's just, at the rate she is, she's just trying to get attention from her father at all. Like, it doesn't even have to be positive anymore. Just because she's been that neglected, essentially. And, she's also desperate to be, like, she's not just desperate to be loved, like, in a term of, like, not just in, like, familial love as well, because she barely gets any of that, but also she's looking for someone to find romantic love with. But the problem is that she's a woman in the early 19th century, and that's not the easiest thing in the world. Like, because the first thing we see is her running away from an arranged marriage with like Don Jacinto, who is a giant, like, wrinkly pear of a man who smells like cod oil. And it's like, you can't help but absolutely just feel awful for her. Like,
but also proud too, because she kind of takes. She doesn't wait around for someone to rescue her from this. She takes matters into her own hands to get away.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's characters like Victoria Escalante or Elena Montero that have done that before, but not to the same extent that Esmeralda has in terms of having agency. And I think that's what I really love about her character. Like, also, she's just funny.
Yeah, she's pretty
She's
good.
just really funny.
Yeah.
A lot of her interactions where she's just messing with people, especially her dad, she's actively just making him mad and he's just giving her the glare. And he can't do anything about it because, like, for example, like, she's stealing Don Jacinto's, possessions and stuff like that after he has one of the most hilarious heart attacks in fiction. I know that part is always so funny because he's just like, oh, what the hell? I'm dying. Oh, no swearing in the church, Thunder. Sit down.
You're selling my brother's pants. Tell her she can keep her brother's pants.
That one went hard as hell. I love that one. That was a good line.
Yeah, she's great. I got a good belly laugh too when she breaks into the "I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich," chant.
I know. Yeah, her happiness in that one was just so infectious. I absolutely loved it. And speaking of main characters, there's another character, that has also gone through, a lot of the feelings of being unloved and feeling like they're being trapped in a prison by, the people who are, they care about and stuff like that. And it's, Don Diego, Zorro. Don Diego in this show is one of the most miserable versions of Don Diego I've seen in my 12 years of being a Zorro fan. And I love it. I love it so much. It is the exact opposite of my favorite version of Don Diego, which is the 1920. I wouldn't say he's my favorite version. It's my favorite movie, but he's the exact opposite of the Douglas Fairbanks Zorro because he is eating up the amount of frustration he causes to people when he's pretending to be the fop. But you can tell from Christian Mayer's performance, he hates being Zorro. He hates lying to everyone that he loves. And, while that's been a thing before with different versions of Zorro, Guy Williams' Zorro has struggled with, telling his father, telling, some of his love interest. Duncan Regier's Zorro, he struggled with telling Victoria because he wants so bad for her to feel, the same feelings for him that he has for her. But, with Christian Meyer's Zorro, it is from all, he's being attacked from all sides by the people in his life for being Zorro, and they don't know. Don Alejandro is just constantly throwing jabs at him about how, he's just this womanizer poet who doesn't care about anything other than writing and being a sleazeball to girls. I love you, Diego. Don't get me wrong, but you're a bit of a loser.
Such a disappointment.
And then and there's his childhood friend who he has to destroy their friendship just so he can help out an innocent person.
Yeah.
And because and then she finds out, that he was only making out with her specifically to take the book from her dad. And she's like, whoa, yeah, Don Diego only cares about his own pockets and his own reputation.
Well, even the people he's trying to help. She
the Romani prisoner, Miguel, and his wife, Laisha, both of them are... Don't get me wrong, I understand from the horrible position they're in of, being a persecuted Romani person by the government, but they are horrible to Diego because they think he's exploiting them and being an asshole to them.
To steal our land.
Yeah, they think that he's stealing from them, even though he doesn't want to. He wants to help them. From the bottom of his heart, he has that classic Don Diego compassion, but nobody sees it except for Bernardo, who barely appears in the show. And it's just it's like the guy can't catch a break. Everyone is so cruel to him. Even his friend Garcia actively tells him that other people think he's a loser. And it's even then, Garcia is compassionate to Diego, but also you can tell, just like in a lot of other ones, he doesn't understand Diego one bit, and that makes Don Diego so lonely.
Yeah, you really feel for Don Diego throughout this entire episode.
Yeah, you really feel for him a lot because he is dragged through the mud one time, literally.
Yeah,
and you can tell he's so ready to just hang up the cape and mask. He is one bad day. People are always talking about, I'm one bad day away from being a supervillain. No, Don Diego's just one bad day away from retiring, just giving it up.
Yeah.
And the only person who is trying to get him to continue on is Padre Viarte, who, by the way, I love Padre Viarte. he's a very fun priest character. There's a decent amount of priest characters that are fun, but like he has this vibe to him where like he's simultaneously like this very wizened mentor figure, but also he has this bit of a whimsical Yoda side to him that I really love. Like just him having fun goofing around playing cards with Diego in one scene and trying to comfort, Maria Pia while she's dealing with the fact that her husband is a genocidal monster in the next. And it's just like, and he's the only one that is able to comfort Don Diego because he knows his secret identity, and he's trying so hard to like motivate him, like, you got to continue, people are depending on you. And he's like, people aren't depending on me, people hate me. How can I protect the people when the people think I'm the enemy?
Yeah, because he's also, I mean, yeah, because he is kind of, to a point, playing Don Diego to keep him as Zorro too. I mean, it is in the Padres' best interest for Zorro to continue, because
he flat out says it. Yeah, it's like, without Zorro, like, your loved ones and me and my brotherhood, we're all screwed. Yeah. And it's just like, and also just Don Diego's so lonely, and he tells him, like, you know what, Diego, you got to find a woman that will love you for the man behind the mask and not for the guy, wearing it. Yep. And like, I really hope this woman magically somehow appears right in front of you at some point, later. That'd be really cool. It'd be a wacky coincidence. But yeah, I absolutely love, like, both Diego and Esmeralda. They're both going through the same struggles, with a different coat of paint. They're two different sides of the same coin, and I absolutely love that, and I cannot wait to see how this relationship of theirs, that I know for a fact is going to blossoms. As for, like, other characters to talk about, there's a lot of characters to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh god, who else? I guess we should talk about some of the other, like, villains too, because there's two other villains. There's Comandante Montero, not to be confused with Don Rafael Montero. Capitan Ricardo Montero is one of the worst Zorro. No, I don't mean like writing. I mean as a person, he is one of the worst. He is disgusting. Like, yeah, Captain Ramon and, like, from the, the Curse of Capistrano and Colonel Huerta from 75, they were sleazeballs, yeah. But Montero, he does things in the first episode alone that, just for the sake of keeping it PG-13, I'm not going to bring up on the show. Yeah. That's how bad it gets from this character. He is disgusting. Ugh. He is just purely disgusting. Every scene he's in just radiates pure uncomfortableness with him being around. Yeah. And it's no wonder why, then, that he, grows an infatuation instantly with the other villain of the story, Mariangel Moncada, who is the daughter of the main villain, Fernando Moncada, and also the horrible, awful sister to Esmeralda. Yeah. She's interesting. Like, I feel like we'll get to know her better as the show goes on. Mm-hmm. But from what I've heard, she pretty much stays as a bastard throughout most of the show, if not all of it. And it's interesting. It's a show with 3 villains, and it's not often we get a lot of, like, female villains in Zorro. So I think it's going to be really interesting seeing how she's going, like, the mischief that she and Captain Creepo are going to cause. Yeah. And honestly, I'm honestly kind of dreading it too. I can only imagine the havoc that they're going to cause together. It's like it's like an evil dark mirror to Don Diego and Esmeralda, if you think about it. I never thought.
And I suspect there will be a lot of plans and backstabbing and just because of the nature. Yeah, just because of the nature of the show. Yeah. But again, the and Mary Angel does kind of have she has inherited her father's kind of evil, knows how to look evil and chew the scenery.
Yeah. If Esmeralda inherited Fernando's ambition, I'd say Mariangel inherited her father's cruelty. Yeah. Like, it's like that. And I think that works really well because like it shows it highlights two of his personality traits that are super important that we're probably going to be seeing for the rest of the show. Oh yeah, by the way, speaking of like Moncada, another thing I was going to mention, like I know we already talked about it before, but like even when he's not on screen, he's still a terrifying presence because there's this whole question that's like laying around about like what happened to Don Diego's mother, and like Maria Pia's relationship, Alejandro's sister, her relationship to Moncada, and as well as Alejandro's friendship slash totally not homoromantic friendship with Moncada, and like. There's a lot of questions that are swirling around this character that when he shows up, I feel like a bunch of bad stuff is just going to go down. Yeah. Especially when it comes to, like, Diego's parentage and stuff like that. Because we see him literally running around killing Native Americans and stuff like that. So we know that, we know that whatever, cruelty and evil he has now, he was even worse in the past. And you can only just imagine the bad stuff he's going to do in the future. That's really scary. But like other characters, there's this. I really love the side story with like Miguel and Laisha and stuff like that. Like they're side characters. They fill the same role that like Nacho Torres and his family kind of fills in the Disney Zorro, where they're kind of like the innocent angelic victims that need saving from Zorro. But I love that they're not just like these flawless like saint-like people. Like they're genuinely frustrated, terrified, angry and scared, and they're willing to go to unfathomable levels just to protect each other, and it is so tragic. And I hope that they manage to get out of the story alive. Yeah. Although considering like some of the darker aspects of the story, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And, like, speaking of Miguel and Laisha, I love that, so in the 2004 Zorro book, for anyone who doesn't know, is the first kind of story that delves into, like, the Romani people and culture. Like, Romani people have always existed in Zorro since at least the 50s. But it's always been kind of like a background thing. Like there was a fortune teller woman in one story in the Disney Zorro who was pretty cool, but was a background character. Yeah. And then the only other Romani character before 2004 was Dracula's henchman who gets eaten alive by rats, and that's just kind of it.
That's lovely.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the only part of that comic that didn't age entirely well. But the 2004 book, it humanizes the Romani culture and the people and stuff like that in the same ways that you see like how it did for like a lot of Native American tribes and cultures and characters and stuff like that. And I thought it was really cool that the show kind of carries that on. While the show seems a bit more stereotypical than the book does, it still comes from a good-natured place and has a lot of interesting characters that I can't wait to see more of. Like the fortune teller lady was pretty cool, and I really like the little love triangle going on right now that's developing a little with like Renzo. Like I have a feeling that he's despite him being told his destiny literally has like no place romantically for Esmeralda, that's not gonna stop him from trying.
Definitely not. No.
Like you can see he fell hook, line, and sinker for for her as soon as he saw her. And I can't wait to see like how they're gonna talk about that more and more, especially with like Esmeralda, like you can tell that she also really likes the Romani people as well. She gets along with them well, has a decent rapport with them, because she relates to a lot of their beliefs and ideas. She desperately wants to be free from like this prison that has been created for her as a noble lady and as a Moncada. Yeah. And seeing people who, they don't have a physical home, but they are completely free to go wherever they want, do whatever they, want to do, love whoever they want, speak whatever they want to and wear whatever they want. And she's she has this like healthy kind of envy, or like where she wants to be like them so bad. Like she loves them and she really wants to be like them, and it's really sad, like just seeing like she is shackled by her family. And I really hope that if not the Romani people, even like the Romani people, by the way, they learn that she is the daughter of someone very important to their culture, so they're probably going to be trying to help her. But also, Senior Zorro.
Before we continue, I want to apologize. My dog is whining a lot. I'm going to need to take her out, so I'm going to head out early. It was nice meeting you, Bobby.
Nice to meet you.
I was glad to talk to you too. I'll see you guys later, and I'll remember to send you the voice stuff. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
See ya.
All right, sounds good. I think we have been talking about the show for quite a bit of time. I'm gonna probably. I'm probably going to leave it off.
Well, and we do eventually see Zorro in this episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we should probably talk about that before we end.
Because he really does.
Yeah. So
we really only see him in costume at the end.
Like, yeah, we see his silhouette and his wanted posters for a bit that kind of show his appearance, but at the end we do see it, and his costume is, you saw me earlier, digging a bit about like, I'm glad they didn't just copy the Antonio Banderas outfit in the Sequoia Studios Zorro show. They basically just took the costume and modified it a little. And don't get me wrong, it works for what it is. The mask is at least unique. I respect that. But like the sombrero, the shirt and pants, the cape, the spadroon, all of those are just borrowed from Antonio Banderas.
And really catches light. He doesn't blend as well into the darkness because he's got these shiny bits.
Yeah, and that fits for Alejandro in Mask and Legend because he's a very bombastic guy. He likes standing out. But it doesn't gel as well for Don Diego for me, especially this very, quiet, sensitive, more, emotional version of Don Diego, who's, a lot more of a sad fellow than usual. I will say, though, that the action in that final fight is really good. Yeah. And, like, not only is it really fun and, a lot of swashbuckling adventure, him, beating up the soldiers and kicking some ass and stuff like that. That's really cool. But also, like, he's on the clock. He's got to save Miguel, who's been, like, shot and stuff like that because of the, Montero's scheming.
I have to admit, there's the one little bit there where he's fighting the soldiers, and he does that little flourish where the cape wraps around him, which I thought was a really cool look. But
he does a lot of he does a lot of cool stuff in that one. I love the one where it just introduces. I love the shot because like he's just standing on top of the tower, just covered in like mist and light and stuff like that, and he just looks so scary. He looks pissed. Yeah, which I really love. It fits for that version of Zorro, and I love that it ends with him literally running face first into, someone who's going to eventually become the love of his life. And they call each other stupid and moron and idiot.
Senorita Loudmouth.
Senorita Clumsy. Senorita Loudmouth. Before the two of them are literally surrounded on all sides by soldiers. And that's where the episode ends. It's just very funny. It's very charming. I very much love it. And I think that's all I got to say about the episode so far. Do you have anything you'd like to say before we get to the final topic?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well made. It looks gorgeous. I mean, the film...
It does.
The filmography is fantastic. The way they filmed the scenes, especially like in the opening with all these, large scenes of large swaths of land, and really gives it scale and scope.
True. Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. And I was doing a little research.
Glad.
This thing lasted 122 episodes.
Oh yeah, I thought it was 117, but that's no matter what, it's a large number. I'm gonna have quite a bit of work cut out for me. I might have to get more than one translator. I'm glad that we managed to get at least that one episode out. I'm glad that both of us enjoyed it. And I can't wait to, see episode 2 translated. Yeah. And with that, I think we're going to have one more topic left, which is, all of us, well, just the two of us now, though, share, an opinion on something Zorro related. and then we usually leave it at that. And the topic for this one is, what is your favorite Zorro love interest? And if you want, I can go first if you want to think about it a little, or you can go first.
Well, I can go ahead and go. For me, the one that sticks out for me, I really did fall in love with Catherine Zeta-Jones as Elena Montero. When she first shows up on the screen, she is just captivating. I just immediately kind of fell, and I don't know if it's the character or the actor or both, but there was just something about her that just really worked for me.
I've heard about that from like a lot of people. Like, I'm kind of sad. I don't have that same infatuation, but from like everyone else seems to. So like, you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah, and I can't explain what it is, but I do enjoy her. I wish she had more to do, especially in the sequel.
I think that's the reason why I don't have as much of an opinion on her as a lot of other Zorro fans do. It's because she doesn't have as much to do. And it's often like, people get surprised when... Because I don't dislike Elena Montero or Elena de la Vega. I actually sometimes, there's a decent amount of scenes of her that I do like. Especially in Legend of Zorro. But, like, she lacks a lot of the agency of other Zorro love interests.
Sure.
And this is not me like dunking on your choice. No. It's a good, understandable choice.
I will say
like
that
a lot
after today and watching this first episode of the telenovela, Esmeralda's up there too. She was pretty cool. Yeah.
That is fair. She is for me as well. And honestly, I've been kind of mean to Elena de la Vega, so honestly, I will say, though, I love that she is more physically active compared to other Zorro love interests. I love that she's actually able to sword fight. It's only explored a little bit in Mask of Zorro. I didn't care much for that scene.
Right.
I know a lot of people love it, but I love when she is able to fight in Legend of Zorro. All of her fight scenes in that one are so good, especially like she's knocking the Pinkertons around like bowling pins, or she's sword fighting those like Confederates, or she shoves the nitroglycerin bottle into the dude's pants and throws him out the thing, and it blows up all the other villains. I love when she does that, and I also do think that she has a lot of good chemistry with Alejandro. Especially in Legend of Zorro, where the two of them have a lot of angst that I really like. As for me, though, I will say my favorite is, I don't know if you've heard of her, but it's Victoria Escalante from the Duncan Regeer Zorro show.
Okay, yeah, very good.
Because I think like, in terms of, like, character agency and stuff like that, she has been outclassed by Esmeralda, but she has a lot of character and charm that I absolutely really love. She also has that same captivating presence that you describe for Catherine Zeta-Jones' character, and a lot of people describe for Catherine Zeta-Jones' character. Like, I feel that way about Victoria. And, like, not only for me is she very beautiful, but also she's a very fun character in general. I love that she doesn't just interact with Don Diego, but she also has like a friendship with Sergeant Mendoza. She often does like activism with like Don Alejandro, and those two often have like a really fun professional friendship. And I always really love that. I love that she's also just like a savvy businesswoman. Mm-hmm. Like, I just thought that was really cool. Like, she owns the tavern in the show, and oftentimes a lot of the stories will center around that and her business and stuff like that. And I just think it's really cool. Like, most of the episodes, she gets something good to do, and, like, despite the fact that, she's very, like, lovesick and very lovey-dovey, like, she melts and fawns over Zorro and stuff like that. It never feels degrading or anything like that, because, like, normally she's, her very much her own character, and, she's has her own agency and her own stuff going on, but also she absolutely just cannot resist fainting at the sight of her dashing hero, which I think is a pretty fun duality. Right. And I just realized I've kind of cut you off. Is there anything like else you'd want to say before we move off the topic?
No. I covered it all. So
that is fair. So that's pretty much it. Is there anything you'd like to say to me or the audience before we wrap up the episode?
Just that I had a good time. This was a lot of fun, and thank you for having me. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again next year and talk up the new Zorro book.
That's not a bad idea. And of course, thank you very much. I'm very glad you enjoyed it. I've been like debating a while, like, oh, should I like invite Bobby Nash on my my podcast, to talk and chat about it, because like I had a lot of Bold Venture Press people, and it's just like, oh, like, maybe people might find it redundant or something, but like at the same time, you're really cool.
Thank you.
Like, I'm really happy I got to talk to you. You're a really cool guy. I really loved your anthology story, and I can't wait to see your next one. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, this has been fun. I do love this character, so it is fun to sit and geek out over Zorro. So that's a nice bonus.
Oh yeah, I understand. Yeah. It is very fun to talk to other people who understand the character and stuff like that. And honestly, yeah, we've never had a recurring guest, but who knows? Maybe when the next Zorro anthology comes out, I'll probably talk to you
absolutely.
about it. I think that's a good idea.
I'd be thrilled to come back and talk about it.
This has been Jack Clock, and this has been my guest, Bobby Nash, and we're signing off now.